Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Krishna Rukmini Jaya Satyabhama Krishna Rukmini Jaya Satyabhama Jaya Nittai Gauranga Jaya Nittai Gauranga O Nittai Gauranga Jaya Nittai Gauranga Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Mishpad Paramam Se Parurajagacharya Ashtotra Shatismishvengrace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Shla Prabhupada Ki Jai Srimad-Bhagavad-Gita Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is, chapter 7, Knowledge of the Absolute, text number 23. Antavattu phalam tesam tadbhavati alpamedasam devan devayajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. Word to word meaning. Antavattu, limited and temporary. Phalam, fruits. Tesham, there. Tat, that. Bhavati, becomes. Alpamedasam, to those of small intelligence. Devan, demigods, planets. Devayajaha, worshippers of demigods. Yanti, achieve. Mat, my. Bhaktaha, devotees. Yanti, attain. Mam, unto me. Api, surely. Translation and purport based Divine Grace S.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Purport. Some commentators on Gita say that one who worships a demigod can reach the Supreme Lord. But here it is clearly stated that the worshippers of demigods go to the different planetary systems where various demigods are situated. Jai Shri Krishna Rukmani Satyabhama ki Jai, Shri Sai Gauranga ki Jai. Just as a worshipper of the sun achieves the sun, or a worshipper of the demigod of the moon achieves the moon. Similarly, if anyone wants to worship a demigod like Indra, he can attain that particular god's planet. It is not that everyone, regardless of whatever demigod is worshipped, will reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is denied here. For it is clearly stated that the worshippers of demigods go to different planets in the material world, but the devotee of the Supreme Lord goes directly to the supreme planet of the personality of Godhead. Here the point may be raised that if the demigods are different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, then the same end should be achieved by worshipping them. However, worshippers of the demigods are less intelligent because they do not know to what part of the body food must be supplied. Some of them are so foolish that they claim that there are many parts and many ways to supply food. This is not very sanguine. Can anyone supply food to the body through ears or eyes? They do not know that these demigods are different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord, and in their ignorance, they believe that each and every demigod is a separate god and competitor of the Supreme Lord. Not only are the demigods part of the Supreme Lord, but ordinary living entities are also. In the Srimad-Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that Brahmanas are the head of the Supreme Lord, the Kshatriyas are the arms, etc., and that all serve different functions. Regardless of the situation, if one knows that both the demigods and himself are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, his knowledge is perfect. But if he does not understand this, he achieves different planets where the demigods reside. This is not the same destination the devotee reaches. The results achieved by the demigods' benedictions are perishable because within this material world, the planets, the demigods, and their worshippers are all perishable. Therefore, it is clearly stated in this verse that all results achieved by worshipping the demigods are perishable, and therefore such worship is performed by the less intelligent living entity. Because the pure devotee engaged in Krishna consciousness in devotional service of the Supreme Lord achieves eternal blissful existence that is full of knowledge, his achievements and those of the common worshipper of the demigods are different. The Supreme Lord is unlimited, his favor is unlimited, his mercy is unlimited. Therefore, the mercy of the Supreme Lord upon his pure devotees is unlimited. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So in this portion of Bhagavad Gita, we are seeing the difference between the worshipping of the Supreme Lord and worshipping the different devatas. Actually, if you see in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, in the beginning of the creation, he created the men and the devatas. And ultimately, since the living entity is always being active in this material world, they have to do certain activity. And instead of acting whimsically, Krishna recommended a particular way in which one have to act in this material world to fulfill their desires. So that particular way, that system is what Krishna referring as yajna. So that is what mentioned in the Vedic literature. And there are different categories of yajnas are there. There are certain yajnas meant for satisfying different devatas. And there are certain yajnas meant for satisfying the Vishnu directly. So, if at all one have to worship the Supreme Lord Vishnu, by certain process, then he has to engage in devotional service. All the yajnas connected to Vishnu are ending up in devotional service. Either chanting, hearing, or engaging in deity worship. So in that way, Navavida Bhakti. And all the yajnas connected to worship of the devatas, in both the cases, whether worshipping the devatas or worshipping the Vishnu, the living entity has some desires to be fulfilled. By worshipping the Supreme Lord Vishnu, Vishnu will not give much importance to satisfying the material desires to fulfill. So if our material desires has to be fulfilled, then the Lord created the yajna, devata worship. But that material benediction is not a permanent. It is a temporary material benefit. Say for example, one want to accumulate more wealth. There is a yajna for performing, a yajna to worship Lord Kubera. One wants to have a good health, then one has to worship sun god by certain yajna. One has to get rain, worship Indra by certain yajna. Or one have to worship, one wanted to fulfill the desires of getting good husband or good wife, one have to worship Uma Devi, Parvati Devi by certain yajna. So these are all what mentioned in the Vedic literature. But the results obtaining by performing such yajna are not an eternal benefit. It is only a temporary benefit. But whereas the benefits which we are getting by means of worshipping the Supreme Lord through the Navavida Bhakti process is an eternal credit for the living entity. So this worship of Vishnu will fulfill the innermost hankering of the living entity. The innermost hankering of the living entity is to seeking for eternal life with full of knowledge and full of ananda. So that will be fulfilled by means of worshipping Vishnu. So Krishna recommends that instead of worshipping the devatas, in the previous verses, Krishna says, one have to worship him directly. And Krishna here is condemning that such devata worships are unintelligent men. Because they do not know my higher nature, which is permanent and it is unlimited. Whereas the fruits obtained by means of worshipping the devatas are limited and temporary. Actually, these devatas are also, they are not like independent personalities. They are also like we are all jivatmas, devatas are also jivatmas. Just like in the country, a king is there and many ministers are there and citizens are there. So ministers are also like the different citizens. But they are given some position and power by the king. And they are given some facilities and they are given salaried by the king. The same way, the devatas are also like human beings, jivatmas. But they are given certain power and position. Who gave the power and position? Krishna has given the power of position. When he has given? During the time of creation of the material universe. And why he has given such power and position for the devatas? To maintain this material world. And to induce the living entities the gradual way to return to the ultimate, to reach the ultimate destination. So devata worship is a means to take to devotional path, but it is not the ultimate end. Suppose someone has a deep material desires, than the desire for liberation, than the desire for going back to our original nature. So for such people, the devatas worship are recommended. Whereas for those who are serious in practicing the devotional service, worshipping the Supreme Lord Vishnu, the devata worship is not necessary. Of course, they are also, that doesn't mean that we are disrespecting the devatas. No. we understand their nature and position, and we give due respect to each and every devatas, and worship the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So Krishna says indirectly that the benedictions which people are receiving through the devatas are supplied by him only, Krishna only. Just like in the country, the ministers are providing certain facilities, creating certain facilities for the citizens by through the facilities, through the power which is given by the king. The same way, the devatas are awarding different benedictions for their worshippers, which they received from the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So therefore Krishna says, even after knowing all these facts, if a person desires to worship the devatas for attaining some material benefit, Krishna is referring him as a less intelligent man, men of small intelligence. And in the practically, if you see nowadays, even though all the demigod worshippers, yajnas are recommended, but there is no proper brahmanas to engage in that, even the devata worship as per the system mentioned in the Vedic literature. So therefore the demigod worship also is not, it is not a practically we cannot follow in a full sense. On the other hand, Krishna says, just by engaging in the Sankirtana Yajna, which is meant for giving the eternal benedictions for the living entity in this particular era, this particular age of Kali Yuga. So by means of engaging in Sankirtana Yajna, one can achieve the ultimate benefit. What is the ultimate benefit we are getting? Returning to our original consciousness. There is no other higher benefit we can receive in this material world than regaining our original consciousness. Once if we regain our original consciousness, then nothing is there to attain. So therefore, by worshipping this worshipping the Lord through the Sankirtana Yajna, we can fulfill the mission of the human life, because this human life is very short period of our life. So if you want to purposefully utilize it to achieve something which is eternal beneficial, then there is no other alternative than to take to the Sankirtana process very seriously. And the process is also very simple in the material, in this Kali Yuga. There is no big austerities required compared to the other ages like Satyuga or Treta Yuga or Dwapara Yuga. The amount of austerity we have to take is very higher, and in the practicing Sankirtanagnya, the austerity is very minimal. So intelligently we have to apply our energy to take part in the Sankirtanagnya and make our life meaningful. So we'll end up in this. Srimad-Bhagavad-Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.